If you've been watching CD Projekt Red like a hawk, you've probably seen the job listings, the buzz, and the speculation. Now it's all starting to click into place. The sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, currently codenamed Project Orion at the studio, is not just happening, but it might be going multiplayer. But of course, that doesn't mean that the single player experience in these games is going anywhere, not by a long shot. But CDPR is doubling down on what it does best with single player experiences while also trying to evolve their future projects in a way that could turn Project Orion into something much bigger than its predecessor. Let's break down everything we know so far and what it might mean for the future of the Cyberpunk franchise. But before we get into it, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the latest Cyberpunk news. And if you're interested, consider becoming a member on the channel for early access on every video, members only content, your name in the credits, the ability to write in and have your comments featured, and access to the Discord community. Back in 2022, CD Projekt Red made an awesome announcement that's music to the ears of any Cyberpunk fan. Cyberpunk 2077 was officially getting a sequel, and of course at the time it was just a code name, Project Orion, with no real context other than it would be developed at a brand new set of studios in North America. Fast forward to present day in 2025, and while of course we still don't have any trailers or concept art of course, we're getting some real breadcrumbs about this future project. Between job postings and leadership comments, it's clear that this game isn't just another chapter in the Cyberpunk saga. It's a technical and creative leap for the franchise. The big takeaway from all of this, CD Projekt Red wants to build on everything that Cyberpunk 2077 did correct after its redemption arc, while also pushing it in a bold new direction. The biggest headline grabber, of course, Project Orion will have multiplayer, and no, that's not just a rumor anymore. A new job listing straight up from CDPR spells it out in black and white, and they're hiring developers to build gameplay systems that work in both single player and multiplayer modes. And of course, Cyberpunk 2077 was supposed to have a multiplayer mode originally, but it was scrapped after the game's rough launch. Now it's important to note here that CD Projekt Red hasn't come out and straight up just said, yes, we're doing co-op missions or expect PvP deathmatches in Cyberpunk Orion, but the writing's on the wall with this one. They're bringing in network programmers, combat designers with multiplayer experience, and gameplay engineers who know how to balance features across player types. When you stack that on top of similar listings going all the way back to late 2024, it's pretty obvious. Multiplayer isn't just an idea anymore for Cyberpunk Orion, it's definitely happening, at least in my opinion. Between October 2024 and February 2025, CD Projekt Red brought on 57 new developers. Out of that pool, 20 of them were placed directly on Project Orion. That's not a side gig, that's a full-on priority project for the studio. And of course, the hiring at CD Projekt Red hasn't slowed down one bit. CDPR is still on the lookout for a senior gameplay programmer, someone whose job will involve maintaining mechanics across single player and multiplayer experiences. But that's a tough balance to strike, especially when you're trying to keep RPG depth and player agency alive in both modes. What does this tell us exactly? CD Projekt Red is treating multiplayer like a core pillar of the game. It's not an add-on, not an afterthought, and definitely not a half-baked mode to pad out the package. It's something that they want to get correct from the jump. Let's just address the elephant in the room here though. CD Projekt Red built its legacy on single-player RPG experiences, and yes, they know that. In a recent statement, CD Projekt Red CEO Michael Nowakowski made it very clear, cutting-edge single-player games are not going anywhere, and that includes Project Orion in this situation. Just because the sequel to this game is now getting a multiplayer mode doesn't mean you're suddenly going to lose out on the rich storytelling, world building, and choice-driven gameplay that made Cyberpunk 2077 and its DLC Phantom Liberty such a hit. This seems to be like CD Projekt Red is trying to have its cake and eat it too, giving players the ability to explore the world solo or with friends, without compromising either experience. Let me know your thoughts on all of this down in the comments. Okay, so here's where things get entirely speculative, because while the job listing does confirm multiplayer in Project Orion, they don't exactly tell us what kind of multiplayer we could expect from this game. Will it be open world co-op where you and a friend cruise around the city doing gigs together? Will it be PvP in a lawless district of Night City? Will there be dedicated multiplayer missions, or perhaps even a roguelike heist mode where you take on corporations with other players? We don't exactly know any of that yet. But here's what we can guess. Given CD Projekt Red's track record and how ambitious Cyberpunk has always been, this probably isn't going to be a simple drop-in, drop-out system. It might be more in line with how Rockstar handles GTA Online, shared world experiences, maybe with persistent characters or progression. And with Unreal Engine 5 now being the studio's new tech platform of choice, it's opened the door for CD Projekt Red to pull off some impressive networked systems without sacrificing visual fidelity or immersion for the player. But let's be real here, Cyberpunk 2077 had one of the most dramatic and insane comeback stories in gaming history. From a brutal launch originally in 2020 to the massively successful Phantom Liberty expansion, CD Projekt Red rebuilt its credibility by listening to players and investing in long-term fixes for their game. And now with Project Orion, they have the opportunity to do something even more impactful. Redefine what a narrative-heavy open-world RPG can look like in a connected open world. And of course, multiplayer in RPGs isn't new, but doing it well, that's kind of rare. If CD Projekt Red can give us a meaningful story that also lets us experience Night City or wherever this next game takes place with friends without watering it down, they might set a new standard in the industry. And let's not forget, the world of Cyberpunk practically begs for multiplayer. Street gangs, netrunners, corpo ops, imagine navigating all of that with a crew instead of just doing it solo. It could be wild for us to experience. It could get very messy of course, but it could also be something really special. Of course, there's a lot riding on Project Orion, not just for CD Projekt Red, but for fans who have grown to love this gritty neon-soaked universe. Adding multiplayer is definitely a bold move for the studio, one that could expand the reach of the franchise and give it a long-term foundation beyond traditional expansions. But it also has to be done right. The good news, CD Projekt Red seems to know that. They're taking their time, they're hiring carefully, they're not rushing to slap multiplayer into a sequel just because it's trendy and will make them some extra money. This is of course still the studio that gave us The Witcher 3, and they've proven that with Cyberpunk 2077 they can learn from their mistakes. So now, the waiting game begins. All eyes are on the North American studios where Project Orion is quietly taking shape. Will the game blow us away? Will it set a new standard in the gaming industry? Only time will tell. And of course, the big question with all of this multiplayer stuff, will it finally deliver the perfect mix of solo storytelling and co-op chaos? We don't know yet of course, but one thing's for sure. Night City might not be the only place where the future is electric. And I say all of this about multiplayer keeping in mind that the single player Cyberpunk experience is what made us all fall in love with the game originally. So the single player experience cannot be hindered in any way because of the multiplayer stuff that they plan to implement in the future. I'm sure what 90% of us Cyberpunk fans really want at this point in time is a new story, new experience, and new adventure in the world of Cyberpunk. I mean, I would love to jump back in and see a new story in this universe. They've all been amazing so far, from the original game's main story and side quest to Cyberpunk Edge Runners to Phantom Liberty's story. I really just want more stories in the Cyberpunk universe. So hopefully deep down, I really hope that CD Projekt Red knows this. The single player experience needs to be just as good or better than Cyberpunk 2077, and the multiplayer experience can be added on top of that. But please, do not impact our single player experience whatsoever. Us single player gamers need our experiences to jump into and just get lost in. But yeah, that's all of the current news that we have, and my speculation and opinions on the multiplayer experiences possibly coming in the future for Project Orion. But let me know your thoughts on all of this down in the comments. For our last little section of the video, let's get into audience inquiries where you can write in and submit your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, or ideas for future videos. We only had one audience write in for this video specifically, but if you want to write in, head over to the post tab on my channel. That's where the thread for upcoming videos will be posted. The one write-in we had for this video comes from Danny Music 20, and they said Cyberpunk Orion isn't coming till 2029 or 2030 max, lol. And yeah, that's probably right. It might even be a little bit later than that. They're currently working on The Witcher 4, obviously that just got announced or officially revealed to everybody at the Game Awards late last year, but The Witcher 4 is probably what, 2027 at this point? I think that's correct. 2026, 2027. I think 2027 is probably more correct. But yeah, if The Witcher 4 isn't coming out till 2027, then they probably won't shift more development help to Cyberpunk Orion until after that game's released. So 2029 and 2030 is probably fairly optimistic, if not pretty accurate. I'd say 2030 at the minimum, but yeah, we're probably in for a bit of a wait for this game, 5-6 years or so, but I honestly cannot wait. I wish we were getting more DLCs for Cyberpunk 2077, but yeah, I've posted some videos about that. We really don't know what's going on with Cyberpunk 2077, but fingers crossed for a new DLC expansion or some type of story of any kind. I would really take anything at this point. I don't really want to have to wait. We know they're getting a new anime at least, so maybe they'll add some content for that and a live action project. So we might get some new content for that as well in 2027 or 2077. But yeah, hopefully we don't have to wait too long, maybe 5-6 years for Cyberpunk Orion. I really don't want to have to wait forever though. But thank you for the write-in, Danny. I really appreciate it. And that's all the write-ins we had for this video. And like I said before, if you want to write in, head over to the post tab on my channel. All the threads for future videos will be posted there. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the latest Cyberpunk news. And if you're looking for something else to watch, click one of the videos you're seeing on screen right now. I will see you there. Also, a huge thank you to all the amazing channel members.